We will call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting. This August 7th, 2018. It is 5:02. I'm going to ask if everyone would please stand for the invocation and then stand for the pledge of allegiance. Father, once again we come to transact the business of this county that we are so appreciative to have the opportunity to live and serve here. Thank you for the men and women on this board and administrative staff and all who put so much time and energy and effort into service. We give you thanks for our law enforcement, our fire, our EMS, and all our public service. Father, we just give you thanks, ask your protection upon them, particularly in these days. And so we ask them for your wisdom and your guidance as we make decisions that will impact us perhaps for many years. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consideration first of all tonight for the resolution to approve the agenda for this evening. We have before you amendments or corrections or motion.
Make a motion to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Keefer to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. We have an agenda. Item number 5, consideration to approve the minutes. I'm going to do two different votes on this. Is that correct? Because there's some of us who weren't here at the first meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Consideration to approve the minutes of the July 17, 2018 millage hearing. And I was not in attendance for that. And Ms. Jones was there. So, he wasn't there.
Mr. Floyd.
Mr. Floyd.
That's the early.
Yeah.
So we'll take a motion from one of the other four.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. And there'll be 2 abstentions. Well, 1 abstention. Okay. And then any motion to approve the minutes of the July 17th, 2018 regular commissioner meeting. I have read those minutes and find them an accurate meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, present.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Jones, second by Mrs. Keefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. And the minutes are approved. I want to welcome our public tonight. Always good to have people who are in attendance at our meetings. We have one special guest tonight, Roger Burdett, who was elected in the primary as a Republican candidate for the office of Commission of the 2nd District, so he's attending tonight. And assuming he doesn't get overrun by write-in votes, then he will be our commissioner. So we're glad to have him participating, listening, and learning, and creating some good knowledge for the future service. So welcome, Roger. Good to have you tonight. You want to give a speech? All of it.
See, he's showing wisdom already.
Already showing wisdom, that's right. So we are, once again, we're glad everyone's here tonight. The documents for this meeting are located in the clerk's office as always, and on the Board of Commissioners website. Everyone's had a chance to look at those items. I would ask them to come to make a comment on an item that would be on the agenda. And if you can limit those comments to 2 or 3 minutes, that would be great for others' time. If you have a presentation time, if you can limit that time to around 5 minutes, that's very helpful too, as well as it helps us get through our agenda at a time and fashion. And with that, I believe we have an appearance from Mr. Kevin Edwards. Mr. Edwards, would you like to step up to the mic and share with this board what's on your mind tonight?
Sure.
First time doing this, so if I don't do it the way you expect it.
You're among friends, don't worry about it. You're good.
First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present my plea to the county as I request consideration for revision of Ordinance 5.3.1.3. That's the non-commercial horticulture or agricultural, but not including the keeping of poultry or livestock in county residential areas. I asked the board to make the decision that would allow the raising of non-commercial poultry for the benefit of self-sufficiency and promote lost family values that would bring parents and children together in a nurturing environment that teaches life basics and encourages responsibility. I ask that you consider revising the current ordinance to allow the raising of poultry in residential districts with established guidelines that promote a healthy environment for all. I'd encourage you to place the decision to restrict poultry upon the Homeowners Association for managed properties. Across the nation, cities and counties are finding that a one-size-fits-all plan in the form of zoning ordinances for restricting the raising of poultry imposes restrictions to the freedoms that many of us have fought for during service to our country. Some argue that it goes as far as to infringe upon our Fourth Amendment right, where in Section 1 it states, "No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." While I'm not here to present an argument for or against the meaning of the Fourth Amendment, I would like to identify a common sense approach to restrictions for raising poultry throughout the county. As we move into the future, we find a unique set of events taking place throughout our nation. Society promotes a feeling of entitlement with no desire to invest sweat equity in the generation that will one day lead the country. Our one-size-fits-all ordinances unnecessarily restrict the very values that our own parents and grandparents instilled within us as children. Raising poultry requires very little space, a relatively low budget, and can be a great tool for teaching responsibility while also promoting self-sustainment. Chickens also make great pets and provide a satisfying companion for many people. I currently own 4.89 acres of property zoned as R1 single-family residential. This property is one lot located in the southwest corner of a subdivision that has no HOA or active covenants. The adjoining property to the south is zoned AR2, agricultural, while the adjoining properties to the north and west are zoned AR1. We wake up each morning to the sound of neighboring roosters announcing the beginning of a new day, and a short walk across the property boundary reveals property that contains a combination of livestock, fish, and poultry. This allows the owners to experience the dream of self-provision without the need to support the ever-rising costs of meats and fresh vegetables necessary to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Technology and modern supplements have improved the process for raising poultry, lessening the fear of strong odors, health concerns, and unsightly coops. Chicken runs are built to withstand destructive attempts by predators to gain entry and can also be designed to allow occupants to assist with gardening chores such as pest control and weed control. They can be an attractive part of the landscape or can be hidden from view through the use of fencing or partitions. Many cities and counties throughout Georgia have revised their own ordinances upon realizing chickens can be raised without becoming the nuisance many expect them to be. Additionally, chickens have been shown to increase property values due to the rich compost made from the manure and used throughout the property. Counties such as Clark County, Chamblee, Coweta, Gwinnett, Marietta, Paulding, and several more have revised their own ordinances to allow chickens with restrictions in place. These restrictions impose limits on the number of chickens allowed, square footage requirements for coops per chicken, minimum square footage of property to raise chickens, fencing requirements, coop height requirements, and distance from property line and adjacent residence requirements. An example of such restrictions is Athens, Clark County. A maximum of 6 chickens are allowed, but roosters are prohibited. Poultry is raised for non-commercial use only and no slaughtering is allowed. Coops must be a minimum of 50 feet away from any residential property line and at least 20 feet from any dwelling. Chamblee County has approved a maximum of 8 chickens in a residential area while prohibiting roosters. Chickens must maintain a minimum of 10 feet, must remain a minimum of 10 feet away from any adjacent residence, and all chickens must be confined to the property. Additionally, many Georgia cities have approved chickens within residential areas. Cities such as Savannah, Statesboro, Roswell, Macon, Augusta, Harlem, Athens, and Valdosta, even Atlanta, now allow chickens to be raised with restrictions. Violations of the restrictions result in additional income for the city or counties in which the violation occurs. Properties managed by a homeowners association may enforce their own restrictions. During 2012, ordinances within the city limits of more than 70 cities nationally required the following: an annual permit fee of $25, no roosters or crowing hens, only 6 hens per coop, no slaughtering permitted, predator-proof required, with a minimum setback of 10 to 30 feet from neighboring residential property lines. As I began to identify the solutions that various cities and counties provided for raising chickens, I also found that many of the ordinances restricting chickens were implemented by elected officials that had no experience with raising any type of poultry or livestock and deferred to existing popular ordinances throughout their home state. For this reason, I pray that the Board of Commissioners would consider revising to the existing ordinance, allowing citizens living in residential areas with no homeowners association to raise chickens in a manner consistent with restrictions defined by the county and its administrators. Additionally, I offer my services as a professional writer and researcher to provide the necessary research to create a proposal for the regulation or restrictions applicable to the raising of poultry within a residential area. I understand that this has been brought to the board back in 2012 and tabled at the time due to a combination of lack of participation and negative input from those opposed to chickens. Fact remains, there's going to be more people throughout the county that do not have chickens than those that do, so we're always going to have that imbalance of popular vote regardless. What I would like to ask of you is that you consider restructuring of this ordinance to allow for the raising of poultry in conditions similar to that across the state, with some restrictions in place, some viable restrictions based on the size of the property and the size of the household. And my research has also yielded, which I'm more than happy to provide you with, the guidelines from different counties as well as cities that would help build that.
Absolutely. I can tell you, you have some experience professional writing that was well written and well said, so I appreciate the comments that you made. I was going to see if we could get a copy of what you just read for our administrator.
Yes.
Pass on to our zone. If you've got any other documents, Mr. Edwards, that you can provide that would help us, I can't speak for the board, but I'm interested in hearing what might be available, because I agree that if you have a few chickens out there with the kids, it's a responsibility. If they can do it in the land in Savannah, I'd like for our staff to research those items and see if that could be a possibility. So,
I appreciate it.
the board has any comments or questions?
How many chickens you plan on raising or having?
We brought ours in when the neighborhood was small. We've got a total of 5 chickens for my wife and I. It actually helps us provide eggs for the neighbors, and they always seem to appreciate it. We have had one complaint. It's from a neighbor that doesn't live there. He just happened to see the chickens one day when he was visiting. He actually lives in Texas, and that's the only complaint we've had.
Are they free range, or you got them in a coop?
We've got them in a coop. Ours.
I read, so there's some website or someone just next door. I can't think of what it is, but there's people's been talking about this the last couple of weeks, and the big issue seemed to be that the chickens were getting other people's yards.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In our particular.
That's the issue. The chickens were escaping.
Yeah, in our particular case, and what we will hope, what we're looking for the county to go with is you have a coop that meets a specific standard. A lot of the coops that I see built throughout the county don't even meet the standard that would prevent wild animals from getting in there and taking advantage of the chickens. But we also are fencing in our property right now so that when we do have to let the chickens out to clean the coop and that kind of stuff, there is no chickens going into the neighboring yards.
Did you pass the information that you had from other surrounding counties about how they're handling it to the zone?
I did. I gave him everything I
That'd
had.
be great.
I will say this, you brought up a lot of good valid points. It's a very comprehensive actually issue when it comes right down to it, because just like you said, we'll need to specify about the coop and all that, and then that will also require somebody to be able to go, have the time to go check on those. It'll add to inspections and things. I'm very much a property rights advocate for people to be able to use their property in a legal way for their own enjoyment. At the same time, some of the points you brought up, you could almost argue that having zoning at all takes away people's rights. So it's a huge issue.
It is.
It does need to be taken seriously, and we'll look at it and see what we can do.
I would see a problem, a half acre or a smaller lot.
And
I can see that being an issue.
You got over 4 acres, right?
I've got almost 5 acres.
Yeah, I mean,
You brought up just like about let the homeowners association handle it in those types of situations. And then you also mentioned in your reading that you're in a subdivision that doesn't have an HOA. We've got tons of those. So it'll just be an in-depth thing that we have to look at, but we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. And we do live in a new day where lots of people that never thought about before things like raising chickens and having their own vegetables in case of self-sustainment are considering those things. So.
Right, and in our particular case, our ultimate goal is to attach it to our garden, which will have runs. The chickens will be confined to the runs in the coop, and they'll be able to keep the pests out of the garden.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you.
It sounds like a vital research for us to get back with you. So,
Got it.
Tom, do you have his information? You want the information?
Stephanie, do you have his information?
I have contact information.
We've got it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Good presentation. Appreciate it. Well, we're going to move into our consent agenda. Item number 1, consent agenda, consideration to approve an assemblage permit for Albert Jackson to hold a turkey shoot at 187 Church Road in Springfield, Georgia. Got a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Loper, second Mr. Loach, to approve the one item on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries. Moving into old business, item number 1, consideration to approve amendment number 1, renewal and adjustment with EOM operations for public works, water and sewer, wastewater treatment facility, and vehicle maintenance services. This was tabled at 7/17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring before the board a renewal. Basically, EOM is on a renewal contract already, an annual renewal, and they just renewed. We are making some modifications based on the agreement and some of the changes that we made dealing with personnel. As I stated at the last board meeting before we tabled this, basically we added to the road crews for the Ash Road. We've added a person to the wastewater treatment plant. There's some modifications just to the dollar amount for personnel. But the main thing that needs to be discussed tonight is really the EOM is requesting a 5-year amendment rather than a annual renewal or a 2-year contract. In my recommendation, I recommended that we do accept that. EOM has been a great partner since 2016. They do a large amount of work for us, dealing with fleet maintenance, public works or wastewater treatment plant. They are really a good team player that's really helped us get past and saved us a lot of dollars and helped us modernize our system. We've integrated them into our system. We've allowed them into our building permit system. They're doing inspections, and obviously the board has approved adding engineering just last month. So a lot of things that they're doing. I recommend that we continue with that. I don't know that 5 years is the actual term.
I've got a quick question, if I interject.
Sure.
Since they really like to answer that. We were obviously very satisfied, appreciate all the EOM has done for us, and been Johnny on the spot in a way. But why the 5-year, I guess, if I read the contract right, it has like a 60-day termination agreement. So I'm not sure why the 5, other than just a vote of support that you have, to make any difference.
So I can comment on one example that the EOM has recently run into is they recently had a candidate for employment there, and the question he asked was, well, what is the contract? Because So I think by us agreeing to do a 5-year term, that allows them to, makes it easier for them to hire qualified employees, which helps them, which in turn helps us, because as you said, things are going well.
So when it does for that, their hire shows that they have our support.
That's right.
They know it, but you, okay, I couldn't figure out why the 5 years if we can get out in 60 days anyway.
Well, I would say in many ways, and also when I first took office, which was a long time ago, I was not in favor of doing contracts at all because of the law that says one board can't tie another board's hands. But yet often, it was put for us to do that, as long as we had an out clause
Right.
that would let us be sure that we weren't, tying each other's hands. And, the things that were explained was many things as far as long as we do have a good working relationship, then that other company is able to give us like the best pricing because they plan long-term as far as hiring, equipment, everything like that. So with the theory that hopefully moving forward, but if things go bad at all,
Right.
we can bring it right up here and just vote it down and change it. So,
Good point to make there.
yeah, that'd be the case. It's all around planning for them cost-wise, just like we would want to be able to do ourselves.
Mr. Chairman, before you go to Kristen on this, I wasn't quite finished with the full presentation because I need the board to hear that Lee, Mr. Newberry and I have had several conversations on this. His advice is only to do the 1-year annual renewals. It's not that it's illegal to do the multi-year, it's just more complicated. We have to have terminology, as you said, that have a defined termination clause that'll give the out so you're not binding future boards. So it is a little bit more complicated and add some language. But I agree with Commissioner Deloach that, you've got a strategic partner that's trying to plan for the future. They're trying to hire, they're trying to maintain. I will also point out that we lost a very valuable employee with EOM just recently, and he went for other employment as well. So we're trying to give them the ability to have a longer term and security in that position. So
One thing I need to understand from Lee, and I didn't know that there was concern until this moment, which I would prefer to know before it'd be better for us to be able to think about these things a little bit longer. But let me ask you this, because we do it on many contracts, food contracts with prison or jail, over and over and over, we repeatedly do it, and I haven't had it come to me that let's don't do it. So that I want to understand, is there any particular reason why you got a concern on this?
Well, I guess it goes back to, we have other contracts like that that you can terminate them. My thought is if you're going to have a termination clause in a multi-year contract, it's the same thing as having an annual renewal. Do an automatic renewal unless there's 60 or 90 days notice not to renew. You're going to have the same effect. Because I get concerned about, this is a very large contract. What if the future board decides that we want to go back in-house?
You're saying the other contracts we do are automatic renewals, and they automatically renew to 5 years, but they're not called 5-year contracts. Is that what you're saying?
Some are that way.
Okay.
But this one, it's dealing with our water and sewer. It's just items that could come back in-house if the future board wanted to do that. And I guess